176 years later, the head of the murderer Diogo Alves remains preserved. 176 years later, no one can understand the scale of his crimes. Diogo Alves was sentenced to death in 1841. But there was such a great fascination with him that, even after his death, someone decided to preserve his head as a souvenir. Floating in a yellowish liquid is part of the body of a serial killer who single-handedly killed more than 70 people in Lisbon. Born in Spain in 1810, Diogo Alves settled in the Portuguese capital, Lisbon, during his youth. Unable to finance his lifestyle through honest work, he began stealing at the age of 26. He began to haunt the Aqueduto das Águas Livres, a construction of more than 210 m over the water, which was used mainly by common farmers who took their harvest to sell in Lisbon. Alves would wait until nightfall when the farmers returned home. He would steal their earnings and then throw them over the railing to make their deaths look like suicides. This is how he killed more than 70 people in just 1 year. The deaths of so many lower-class people were seen as a wave of suicides that the police paid no attention to. But the killer eventually changed his targets, moving to residential homes, which he attacked with a gang of thieves. They broke into a doctor's house and killed him and his family. That's how the police discovered what he had been up to. Diogo Alves was sentenced to death by hanging in 1841. During this time, in the mid to late 19th century, phrenology was very popular. The theory behind it was that different mental characteristics were related to particular areas of the brain, and that there was a connection between the shape of the brain and the shape of the skull. The shape of the skull could tell about the person's character. Followers of phrenology believed that it was possible to measure a person's criminal tendencies simply by examining their skull. They hoped to make some discovery in the brain of a serial killer like Diogo Alves. So his head was preserved in a jar of formaldehyde, and it remains there to this day on a shelf at the medical school in Lisbon. So, 176 years after the events, you can visit the decapitated head of a murderer and see his eyes staring back at you, seemingly and strangely alive. With their pseudoscience, phrenologists were unable to discover anything about the man's head. But before being arrested, Diogo Alves was asked if he felt any remorse for his crimes. He replied, "Just once. A baby I killed to keep quiet. Before I could kill him, he smiled at me. Then I felt remorse.